Hi, and welcome to another episode of MCTV Let's Talk. I'm Mike Stanzillis, Vice President of Membership and Business Development for the Morris County Chamber of Commerce. And this evening, we have with us the Mayor of Wharton, New Jersey, William Chegwidden. Now, Bill Chegwidden has been the Mayor of Wharton since 2001, and during that period, he also served 6 years as a freeholder. Prior to that, from 95 to 2000, when he became mayor, he was a councilman in Wharton. He's also a teacher. He spends his days teaching at Morris Hills Regional High School, and he teaches history there, and I think government and AP government. And Bill's also an entrepreneur. He started his own business as a luncheonette back when he was a young man, and prior to that, he also had a commercial services company and a real estate property management company. So welcome to the show, Mayor.
Thanks for having me.
Be called Bill, William, or I hear that you are also called Cheggy from time to time.
Cheg is fine, yep.
All right, Cheg. Well, then let's just get started. So in Wharton, what's going on with your businesses with all this, the closures of businesses throughout the state and throughout the country with COVID-19? Have you seen businesses close? Are they coming back? What's happening in Wharton?
Well, we have really two different sectors in Wharton. We have an industrial sector and we have our Main Street also. Our industrial sites have been up and running. A lot of them have been essential businesses, so they have been. And they have taken many precautions to make sure that their employees were protected, changing their shifts and doing those type of things. But our Main Street is really hurting. Our Main Street is, as you know, with a lot of different restaurants, they can only have takeout. And so that has certainly hurt our businesses, certainly.
Yeah, we see that across Morris County and the region as well. And it's interesting with you and Wharton because you've worked so hard over the years to bring Wharton into the 21st century economically. You've done a lot with economic development. And so give us an idea of how all this economic development got started and where you're going with it. And what do you think is going to happen based on where we are with COVID-19? But first, let's start out with all of the great projects you've gotten through Wharton and how that all got started.
Well, some years ago, what we decided was we were going to take our budget and our debt and become debt-free. I will tell you in the last probably 3 to 4 years, we've been debt-free here in Wharton. And that has actually helped us spur a lot of projects, infrastructure projects that we've had. Of course, we've redone our sewage system. Our water system has been, redone. And of course, our roads, so we can handle things. And that's when we went into the redevelopment. So when businesses come in, they don't have to do infrastructure things. We've already done it. We already have them in place. So what we did was we brought residents in, and we brought them in. We did this kind of a SWAF type of thing, and where they come in, we do the positives and the negatives of the town, and we worked off of that. And of course, I also want to add is that we're in the Highlands, but we are planning in the Highlands. So we also use that to our advantage also. We've put pilots in place. We started with a big project, Avalon Bay. That has been up and running for several years now. We also did another pilot on Main Street, which has worked very well. That's another 50 apartments. Avalon Bay is 250 apartments. And right now we are working on the project that really all the residents have put their 2 cents in on Main Street itself, which will be another apartment complex, but with retail underneath it. We didn't want to put the retail in until we had the foot traffic to support the retail. So that's what we've been doing. That's one of the things that we've done.
So it's an interesting lesson I think we can all learn, getting your debt cleared up and getting your infrastructure together. And it's sort of, you said, in a sense, you will build it and they will come. And obviously you were right. So now with that last project on Main Street coming through, what do you think is going to happen with the new sort of new normal and the new economy, if you will, going forward in the COVID era to your projects?
Well, certainly, I think a lot of businesses are realizing now that maybe they don't have to have the big buildings for people to go into all the time, that they can work at home. So why not have places, within your apartment complex where people can go have meetings or Zoom meetings like we're having right now, and it would save them a lot. Of course, it will hurt on the other side, for office buildings, of course. But you know what? Maybe that's the trend now. That's going to happen. I mean, how many meetings have we been on that are Zoom meetings and virtual meetings? I think that is probably the biggest change. I think also with downtown stores, you're going to have something that's unique shop that people will want to go to, that's going to offer them something, not like box stores anymore, because you can order things right online. We're finding that out, and it ends up right at your door. So we put more of a walking community type of a thought into our plan here.
Well, it's a great plan, and it sounds to me like you really put a lot of thought into the economic development of your town. So speaking of economic development, we have with us Ed Ramirez from the Morris County Economic Development Corporation. And Ed has his finger on the pulse of what his members are asking. And there's, I'm sure, Ed, there's some questions out there that you're getting over and over again. So why don't you ask the mayor a couple of questions from the EDC?
How you doing, Mayor?
Good. Thanks for having me, Ed.
One of the questions that people are asking, your small businesses there in your town, how have they taken advantage of the Triple P program?
They've tried. There's some that have gone to banks. It's funny because I actually talked to some today where they actually have gone to banks and they have run out of that fund. So some of them had to go to other banks. Thank God, they have a dual ownership, and they've gotten it, but they're only getting it as of right now. This is several weeks later. So yeah, they've been a tough time trying to make sure that they're keeping their employees. So it has been a rocky road for a lot of people.
Wow. Yeah, and that's what we hear from a lot of the small business owners. And also, how are your workforce? How are they doing with unemployment? Do you see a surge in the unemployment there, or?
We certainly have. But our unemployment was high at one time, and what we would do is we would have job fairs. And we're going to go back and have that again. We're going to bring in, we do our local job fair. We get anywhere from 75 to 150 companies that come in, and our residents come and put in applications. That might change too. Who might know? It might be a Zoom thing now because you don't want people so close, but we've certainly done it before. I've heard though from many people, I talked to a bartender the other day, and he still has not gotten through the unemployment. Here he is this whole time, still not can get through. And he said, thank God, Chegg, I saved my money, but he's living off his savings right now. Wow. That is really the crisis that is happening here.
Yeah, that's a tough story, Mayor. And thank you, Ed, for the great work at the Morris County Economic Development Corporation. So, you mentioned something about foot traffic walking through town and the businesses that are associated with that. And you mentioned a bartender. Well, let's piece it together and talk about liquor licenses. Okay. So I know you're also the president of the New Jersey Conference of Mayors. And I've heard you speak about the problem with entrepreneurs wanting to open up a bistro or a nice restaurant and getting a liquor license. So talk a little bit about what your take is on how we can fix that problem. And what do you see the path forward to that?
Well, certainly with liquor licenses is that you have to have a certain amount of people in town to get one liquor license. So it's 10,000 people per liquor license. So if you're a small town like us, Wharton, we only have 7,000 people. Well, we're grandfathered in because prior to this law being put in place, at one time we had 17 liquor licenses. Now we're only 2 square miles. So that was a lot of liquor licenses. Over the years, those liquor licenses have been lost. But the problem is that you have to buy that liquor license from someone else, and that may stop a business from coming into your town. Competition is good no matter what kind of competition is. You can look at pizza restaurants, okay? And how many pizza restaurants? We're a small town. We have 3 pizza restaurants in town. Guess what? That's working out well. And it has for a long time because they haven't gone anywhere. They're still all here. It's, it's service, it's the product, it's like anything else. So with liquor license, I think the same thing. I think the town should be able to issue a liquor license if that's what it sees fit. You would have to have a hotel have to come in. It has to be, I think, 100-room hotel to come in for you to be able, under the state regulations, for you to get another license. I think it should be home rule, up to the towns, and the town should issue that license. Now, you'll say to me, well, how about the people that own licenses now? Well, you would buy them out of their licenses. So you would give them fair market value so they're not losing that investment on that license. You could do that through collecting the funds, of course, through the new licenses that you put in. So there's certainly ways to do it. That's just one way of doing it. There's certainly other ways of doing it also.
So the fees associated that are generated from the new licenses would be used to make the other people whole, because clearly the valuation of those licenses are going to go down, as that happened in New York City with the taxi medallions when Uber came along. It was
That's right.
The value.
Great example. That's a great example.
Yeah. All right. So has anybody in Trenton heard your thoughts on this, and did they take to it, or did
Well,
it,
we were trying to put this in, and we're trying to put this in, of course, with excuse me, somebody just walked in to the house.
That's a Zoom meeting. We're all working from home.
We're all working from home.
Yeah.
So we're certainly trying to work through this with the Conference of Mayors. We actually were going to bring it up and bring it into our September conference. So.
All right. Well, let's hope for the best on that. I think that really would help mayors with their downtowns, the ability to bring in restaurants. Let's face it, they make most of their money on the alcohol. There's such a narrow margin on the food part.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So anything else, any other ideas that the Conference of Mayors is going to put forward in the coming year?
Our conference too, we're looking at school tax, actually, is another thing that we were looking at, to see whether or not school tax could be funded in a different avenue. As you know, what happens is the town is the vehicle. We collect the school tax. So a lot of times when people get their bill, they think that their bill's going up because of the town. The town is only a small slice of that. In some towns, it's 75% of their tax revenue that comes through is for the schools. Some lesser, more 65%. And a lot of times what happens is people think that it's the towns that are the ones raising the tax, whereas actually the schools. And I'm sure there's a lot of different ways that we could do that, a bifurcated system maybe to help with that school tax, to keep people in their homes, to keep elderly people in their homes, and stop people from moving out of the state.
That's a completely other conversation that we should definitely have. We'll bring you back for that, and perhaps we'll bring a school superintendent on board, Ed, and they can go at it. But I know it's interesting. You have a great take on it because you're a mayor and a teacher at the same time, a school teacher. So we're going to wrap up, but I'd like to ask one other question of you. What is it, if anything, that you miss most now that we're all in this sort of lockdown phase? And what do you think you'd be doing when we go back to the new normal? What's one of the first things you want to get out there and do?
Well, it's funny because, we go to these events. We have our Canal Day, or I pop over to our senior building over there and just stroll through. They're the things that you miss, seeing the public, talking to the public, because it's like you're in isolation. You don't really see anybody. Every once in a while, you get a message from somebody, this problem, that problem. But a lot of the problems have actually shrunk because people aren't out and about. We're not hearing people complain about sidewalks or roads or stuff because nobody's using them right now. So I think that's probably the most thing that I miss most is just being out with people or going to a clam bake, things that we love to do as mayors, being out with people and, kibitzing with them,
Yeah, yeah. It's that's a common thread with politicians and mayors is they love to be out with people. And then every time we ask this question, we almost get the same exact answer.
I guess one thing I'll add to it though is I'm a big handshaker, and I guess people, aren't going to be shaking hands. So maybe it'll be the new fist pump,
The new fist pumps or the jazz hands.
Yeah, the jazz hands. Yep.
Jazz hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
So jazz hands to you, Mayor Chegwidden.
Thank
Cheg,
you.
we really appreciate you being here on the show today. And we want to thank our sponsor, Tilcon, Josh Benson of Tilcon. Without their help, this show would not be possible, and we appreciate their support of the Morris County Chamber of Commerce. So once again, I'm Mike Stanzillas with Ed Ramirez and Mayor Bill Chegwidden with MCTV Let's Talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.